of a second, he has a 100% save percentage. So like, let him have that one.
Right.
It goes off the shaft of Lafreniere, it dips down, and that was the score that now equalized the game at 1-1. But I think that players should know, if you're going to be late to get in the lane, let them have it. If you're going to be early and you can body it and force a shot to the short side, that's obviously the name of the game.
A reminder that this hour of Real Kipper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. You're watching and listening to Steve Alaquette, analyst with the New York Rangers, CEO of ClearSight Analytics. All right, we had a pretty lengthy conversation, debate on Anthony Stolarz with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he had a lot of things to say after the loss against Seattle on the weekend. We're kind of split here. Well, not really. It's JB and Sammy against me on whether or not Stolarz went too far, crossed the line. Certain things were okay, some weren't. Where do you stand on goalies being in a position now to kind of critique, certain players, and whether Stolarz totally had the green light for you or not?
Okay, so my feeling initially when I saw the play was, of course, he can be pissed off because Carlo's just standing there. And I tweeted out that, look, I think that first he was beat up on the hit, and then he looked up and he saw his teammate standing there, and then he just snapped and decided to throw the net off. So I would leave it there because the message would get delivered and it would be received. And you don't have to say anything. And this is how, in my opinion, sports work anyway. When you're not playing well, you don't have a voice, or, and that's not the case for Stolarz, or if your past behavior has been a little suspect, you don't have that voice. And you can't forget that last year he exited the postseason because he was grazed by Sam Bennett. And Sammy, I'm sorry, I've heard you say it before that he got, decapitated. Not the case
assaulted
on that hit. No, Sammy, those don't hurt. Trust me, they don't hurt. We're so padded. It's one of two things. That hit I didn't like at the time because either you wanted out because you weren't sure about yourself, or you're that susceptible to a concussion, so you shouldn't be playing anyway. So for those two reasons, I'm worried about you. And you guys know, when that guy's healthy, top 3 goalie in the league all day for me. I love the guy in net. I think he plays a great game. But you can't leave a series the previous year and then chirp the next year. You just hold your lane and shut your mouth, because you can really screw things up in the locker room. That's just the way it works. And, he went a little far too with bringing Nylander into it on the back check. I didn't even think that back check was that bad, because you know what? When you're a goalie, you don't really, unless you watch the game the next day, you don't know the timing of everything. And I even looked at the numbers on, his reference to the screens and stuff, and that's not really the case. I mean, they're not that bad. Screens for the Leafs this year, they're 15th in the NHL. They've had the 15th most. Point shots with no screen, they're tied with Calgary for 6th. And net front at 5-on-5, they're 16th. So I didn't think their numbers were that bad. It doesn't really back up the claim. I think that one issue that you can say and understand is that there's been some history there. So I'd imagine that he's seen the lack of back check and experienced those things. So he had something to say about it. But, look, I think that when it comes to the locker room, it's a sacred thing. And you have to be very careful early in the season not to create something that doesn't need to be created. As I've said before, I think that in the locker room, guys, you can fool your girlfriend, you can fool your wife, you can fool your agent. Sometimes you can fool the coaches, but you can't fool the boys.
Oh,
Go ahead.
yeah. I've never heard that before, but interesting.
Well, you know what I mean, Kipper.
No, I do.
Everybody
I do.
knows
Yes.
in the room.
Yeah.
We all know.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day. They're telling me some Ken Dryden story about him saying that, as a goalie, it's a good thing if the team fears their goalie a little bit, has a little bit of a factor like that. And I was thinking about it. I was like, yeah, Billy Smith, definitely. Grant Fuhr, probably.
Henrik. You should have seen Henrik, Borny.
Yeah.
Henrik.
Okay.
Henrik was not a choir boy.
Right.
He'd come in. I remember one road trip, Colorado, Minnesota. It was the Minnesota game that Gabrick had 5 on him. and he came in and did like $25,000 worth of damage to the locker room.
Oh my.
Like, I mean, just trashed the place. And, you know, like, he was that pissed off. And you know what? If I don't want a choir boy for a goaltender. He could be a civilian, good guy off the ice, this and that. But on the ice, I want a maniac. And, you know, I'm sorry, that's what Henrik was. And he was a killer on the ice.
I mean, post-game, Henrik, the media attention, he was one of the first guys they always went to. Was he critical? Was he selective on the things that he said after the game?
He seemed, you know what, Kipper? He was always right on it. You know, like if he was playing really well, he may have a little more to say, but with his credibility, he could say anything and being as honest and as blunt as he would want to be. But look, my point with Stolarz is that just don't put that attention on yourself, man. You're a really good goalie. If I was somebody on the coaching staff, that's exactly what I would have said to him, person to person.
One more for me. And you can speak of this because you lived the position, you played the position. If a couple of guys on a team are pissed off at a goalie, is there a chance subconsciously they could play different around you?
Oh man, that's such a good question. I believe in that all the way. You know, I believe in people sticking up for people that they love.
Because I've had teammates, Valley, not to cut you off, but I've had teammates saying, "You think I'm going to block a shot for that guy now?"
Yeah. Hey, buddy, as a backup that played once every 2 weeks, can you imagine the teammate I was? I'm giving tips, I'm juggling, I'm backflipping. Anybody want more shots? You know, like, I knew when I got in there, it was an event. So I also knew that I had to, you know, reach that level of credibility with my teammates to make sure they were going to battle for me. And I feel like I was very well liked and respected, and I feel like everybody gave me everything they had on the ice. So I do believe in that. I do believe in that. The locker room is such a sacred place, and nobody knows if it's fractured or not except for the guys in there. And you know how pockets can get created and subplots can manifest. It can kill a season. I mean, I've seen it both ways, guys, where the more time you spend with your teammates, the closer you are. And then sometimes you can kind of screw that up too, because you're at bottle service and then all of a sudden, you know, somebody picks up the bill and the next day he's coming around the locker room with a hat and we're like, oh, I thought you picked that one up last night. Oh, okay, that's how you are. I guess I'm not going out with you next weekend. You know, like.
But poker games I've seen destroy a dressing room.
Big time. Hey, by the way, a story that never really got out, but I know of a star player that was taking money off rookies and got traded. Like that's a real thing, you know. And yeah, like stories like this go around the league, and you know, I'm not in the room any longer, but I know that stuff exists for sure.
I really like the expression, "Truth hurts, truth helps." You know, I think for a team, these are essential processes to go through, and this is what Kip and I got into a little bit. And I think what forms these cliques you're talking about is guys who don't have the you-know-whats to say it to the guy. And instead it's, hey, you know, he never backchecks. That guy doesn't do his job. Yeah, I know. You know, like that's how that stuff gets started to me. I am curious to see which way it goes for the Leafs. For the years here, we haven't heard anyone say anything like this. So that was the root of our discussion
publicly
yesterday.
Though, but it was said in the dressing room. Stolarz, everything that he said publicly, my understanding is he said it after the game. So it was said already. The only difference was did John the mailman need to hear it too, you know, moments later.
Yeah, but again, I'll stand on the word I said earlier, which is, you know, you left the playoffs last year. You gotta kind of just keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, and work your butt off, and
that's
just
good.
Stay out of it.
All right, let's move on from the Toronto Maple Leafs, the team they're going to be playing tonight. They got the New Jersey Devils. Jake Allen playing more than Markstrom, with Markstrom hurt. Allen off to a pretty good start this year, Valley.
Yeah, he is. His numbers represented above the board are stronger than his analytical numbers. But last year, when he could have been a free agent at the end of the year, he was the goalie I consulted with the teams that I work with to go after and get, because his year last year was outstanding. His numbers were head and shoulders above Markstrom's last year. And you can see why he's holding his own again. He's kind of a, one of those Renaissance type goalies that has been in the game a really long time, been on the rails and figured it out maybe a little bit later, how to be consistent. For a long time, the book on Jake Allen was that when the team was not allowing a lot but needed a save, he didn't come through. But when the team wasn't playing well and he had a lot of volume, that's when he would perform, when the pressure wasn't as important at the time. So there's game states where you can measure these things, and it does check out. That's kind of been the book on Jake, but now I feel like he can play any kind of game. He can play a game where he doesn't feel a lot and still make a big save, or the opposite side of the coin where he gets a lot of volume and can still play big.
Got to ask you about Detroit, and there's no question that Detroit's better with Gibson, right? But are they like playoff better with Gibson?
Gibby's he's a tough one because for years I thought that he was the easiest pre-scout in the NHL because he was such a challenger, and you can fade off of not shooting because he was so good on the open shot and pass it. And I feel like now he's, again, maybe with age a little bit, matured and backed up in his crease so that he's not just a first shot goalie. He can be available. I think for years too, because Anaheim was so poor that, it was almost safer not to be too responsible. Because if you do over challenge, you can say, I had my guy, and you can give up the pass. And whereas now I feel like, especially with, what came out with Detroit after their first couple games, they've been running hot since. He's kind of playing to win now, and Talbot he's been terrific as well. So both guys are going well, and they got a good thing going in Detroit. I was kind of surprised actually looking at today was one of the days where you're 2 weeks into the season, and I have to go through who's performing well, whose environment is difficult, and there's some surprises right now around the league, guys. Like Connor Hellebuck is the top performing goalie again, analytically, and this year, the difference, though, is that Winnipeg, as good as they're playing as far as results, and they look like they're coasting, they're giving up a lot. They're giving up the third most high danger scoring chances in the NHL right now, and their environment is third difficult. Interesting, too, though, Borny, Sorokin's just getting killed right now on Long Island. What's going on there? He's facing 11 high danger chances against a game. That's insane on average. Typically, NHL worst team is about 8. That's how bad the Islanders have been defensively. Is that what you've seen?
Wait a second. They got the greatest 18-year-old to play 26 minutes a night ever.
Yeah.
How can this be?
Right. They're giving up a lot. Wow, I'm surprised. So that's the toughest environment in the NHL right now is Long Island. Second toughest environment is Ottawa, Linus Ullmark. His numbers reflect that. His save percentage, Linus is on his scoring chances, is .843, which is lowest amongst all starting goalies in the NHL. A couple guys that have come back really well. Jake Ottinger, Spencer Knight has been terrific.
Oh, yeah.
And they both have a little